duo releases.
Pokemon! Honestly, how else could I start to describe this? While Pokemon didn't create duo releases, they did popularize it. And I guess that was enough for Hudson Soft to not only try this twice, but even decided to create Max. Yeah, this is the first time he shows up.
And I find that very neat.
So there are differences, but for the most part they aren't majorly significant. The Terra Bombs are also different, as each version have their own exclusives, making it so that you will need to connect two Game Boys with the two different copies via link cable. As for why, well, stick around.
But for now, for this review, I'll be covering the Blue Champion version. Because me likey whitey bubby. With that being said, here's Bomberman Max, Blue Champion Edition.
So the story is that a reject TMNT villain by the name of Brain hijacks a supercomputer, and he has sent his minions to different planets, turning each and every natural wildlife into mechanical beings. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
I can't believe this.
Well, anyway, when Dr. Ein notices, he dispatches both Bomberman and Max, but only Bomberman actually goes. Now I know why this actually happens, but I'm still just going to play this.
Come back, you bastard!
Yeah! Bobby! Get him with fire!
The first thing to note would be the graphics. Sure, they aren't a masterpiece, but I like how wisely they chose the colors. It actually adds up with a really appealing result. The planets you go through are also interesting and don't fall into the Mario trap of becoming very samey. Another thing to note would be the controls, which were really snappy. A major improvement over the controls of the GP series, that's for sure. So not only does it have a lot more pretty colors, but you aren't always doing the same thing. Like sometimes you need to free a Terra Bomb, sometimes you need to destroy a certain amount of a specific enemy, or even destroy all soft block. It definitely has variety, that's for sure. I was actually surprised by how much more fun I had into this compared to the GB series. Like the bosses, for example, it's all about the timing, and even if the screen crunch makes it seem as if the bosses may suffer from it, they actually still manage to give a great deal of challenge.
But with all my praises, are there things I didn't like? Of course.
When you die, everything gets reset, which can get annoying for two reasons. The first is having to restart all over again with whatever objective you currently have. And the second reason is some of the enemies can get especially annoying.
It's right back where we started!
Gah, this is why Crash rides hogs. This is why Obelix eats wild boars. Stupid boars.
And another problem I had comes with the exit portals. You see, there's two. One is orange and the other is blue. The blue takes you to the next stage while orange is previous. That doesn't sound so bad, but they don't make it that obvious. And that can lead to you having to repeat several stages.
Yes, this happened to me. Thanks for asking.
Besides those quirks, Bomberman Max Blue Champion is actually a rather solid one. It's definitely one of the better portable Bomberman games that I've played.
And to think that 2 years later the sequel would come.
So the story this time is that Murcho, now without his majestic, plentiful balls, places a mini device, much redundant, into the bubble base without fail.
Do they not have some kind of security for something like this? Do they have absolutely zero security guards that can stop them from getting in? What? You're making the Princess Peach castle look more high-guarded.
Once they do get spotted by your main two heroes, Mojo and the Hitchy bandits already managed to escape, and thus the machine shrinks to zero down to a tiny size. Now how can Dr. Ein see them is another question entirely, but already look at that, the game already started.
But you know, if I had a nickel for every time a silent protagonist gets shrunken down to microscopic size by their main antagonist on the Game Boy Advance, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
And a plot hole for both that I've always wondered is, why did the villains not squash them? You got the one person who always foils your plans in a tiny bug-like size, and you don't even squash them? No wonder your majestic balls got castrated, you dumb 45-year-old wrestler. 45? Oof.
And yes, I do know that sometimes in the stages a hitty foot attempts to squash you, but I'm saying it would have been better to do it right now. No, not today.
Well, anyway, the first thing you notice are the graphics and how good they are. It's like if new Bomberman had brighter, more appealing colors. Even if admittedly some of the charm of the first Max's graphics are sadly lost in translation. Especially with the use of sushi, which, while not too sad, definitely offers up the game's art style a bit by aging not so gracefully. The controls have been fine-tuned to near perfection. I haven't moved this much basic Super Bomberman 3. Oh man, does it feel nice.
But what about the gameplay? Well, for the most part, it's actually still the same as last time.
There's only one thing that I noticed a lot more in this compared to the first, and sadly, that's enemy cornering. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's enough for me to be a problem. You're minding your own business when BOOM! An enemy cornered and killed you. It's especially unfair when the first game didn't have this at all. Different objectives for different stages are still here, but this time the game now has a world map, and depending on the blue quarter you choose at the end of the stage means that's how you go from stage to stage, either in or out of order. Now that seems like a really cool idea. You can even choose which one you want to do. The two the game allows at the moment anyway.
But I'll be honest, I think I prefer the way the first Max did it.
It felt way less cluttered and more organic the way it was done there. Tower bombs are actually writable this time, but unlike Lumi's or even Tiwa's, they don't even give you an extra hit. You just die as if you were traveling by foot. It is so confusing. Sometimes Max joins to help, but he isn't really helpful. Bloody, it's the effort that matters.
Fun fact, did you know
That this is the game where terminal montages credit music comes from. Now if he made something about Bomberman vid, I will be there day What?
Speaking of which, how's that music, huh? Well, once again, they're pretty good.
Even if I actually have a problem with the fact that both games play one music per world, I can withstand it just fine, but for some that may end up making both OST a bit annoying. But which one do I prefer? Well, I actually ended up preferring the first game's OST. Now make no mistake, both have wonderful soundtracks, but the second games I personally don't find as memorable as the first game's OST. Plus I find that it manages to give its own unique flair compared to the second game's OST.
You might remember that I praised the first game's bosses for being really fun, but do they manage to keep up that fun?
Well, for the most part, they are, even if the designs have gotten a little bit less creative than the first Max.
So that's Bomberman Max 2. What's that thin air I'm pretending is another person? I need to talk about both games having a good and bad ending. Oh boy.
Well, you see, depending on the percentage you get, that determines the ending you will receive. And remember when I talked about connecting two Game Boys with two different copies via link cable? Well, this is why. You see, on their own, you can only really get 80%. Certain levels are missing. That way, you can not only get them set, but also be able to 100% the game. Nah, fuck that noise, I'm not doing any of that, especially when the endings aren't even worth it.
And I'll be blunt. I fucking hate when games do the whole good ending, bad ending thing. It's a ha gotcha that demotivates me immensely to get the good ending. I don't get why Hudson Soft tried it again after it didn't work in the back of Bomberman 64 duology. It especially doesn't work here. But with that being said, how does Max 2 compare to the first?
Well, personally, I found this to be a step down from the first. Sure, it does do a few things better than the first, but it does way more things worse than the first. I need to reiterate that this is still a good game. It's just that the first game does more for me personally.
Well, that settles it for the Max series. I wonder what I'll do next. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. This was Joseph from Joseph's World, and I'll